Hi guys, Jori here, hope you're doing well. I'm here again with a Inside the Solo episode. This time we take a look at a Paul Desmond solo. You all know I'm pretty crazy about Paul Desmond, and it's the solo on Blue Rondo A La Turk, but not the famous one. There is a alternate take that has been released. I kind of missed it, but in 2020 Chris Brubeck, the son of Dave Brubeck, decided to release a complete album of alternate takes for every song on the famous Time Out album. So that's insane. That's really interesting to listen to. Also, you'll find take 5 was quite something else at the start. The groove was completely different. Well, you can check that out, it's here on YouTube. But when I went and listened to the Blue Rondo A La Turk solo, I was kind of completely blown from my chair here. It's just 3 choruses of a blues solo in D for alto sax, that is, and he does some amazing stuff which we'll take a deeper dive in today. Can't wait to talk about that. Just so you know, I just started a Paul Desmond study group at Patreon where you can join for weekly lessons, but more on that at the end of the video, just so you know that there is more to this if you want to. It starts with this alternation between the 9/8 melody and then some bluesy fill-ins by Paul Desmond. Okay, and these ones are pretty generic, very sweet, and nothing crazy happening yet. There will be a lot of crazy things to talk about, but that's not in this intro. Let's call it a bit of an intro to the complete solo. If you look at it, it's nice how Paul Desmond can play so bluesy while still being very hold back, you know. He plays that with a very light ease of sound, and he plays mostly the D major blues scale. That is D, E, F natural, that's the bluesy note, F sharp, A, B, D. Actually, he kind of makes a combination between the minor blues scale, so D, F, G, A flat, A, C, D, and the aforementioned D major blues scale. So he does that twice, and then at the end, the third time, he plays a simple pattern actually. Beautiful setup, and then we go on to the full solo. That's what I mainly want to talk about. Here we go. Yeah, I really couldn't, pause it any before, because it all makes sense when you follow a Desmond solo. Everything that he plays next just makes sense in context of what he just finished playing. But let's break it up for now. This was the first chorus, and he starts with, it's almost childish how easy he starts. It's what the generic first improvisation lesson for kids, right? Play guide tones. That's like the most basic and most used advice to how do I play nice lines. You should play your guide tones. Well, hold my beer, Paul Desmond said, and then he went. So that's the guide tones, and he uses it over an octave and makes a little fun rhythm with it. He makes a melody out of guide tones. Let that be a lesson that you really can make music with even just the most basic use of guide tones in the most literal way actually applicable. And then next, it's so interesting what happens. There is happening so much. We will go on to the next part, but let's do it again from the start of that blues chorus with the guide tones. Sometimes hard to detect with Paul Desmond, but what he does is actually pretty hip and rather outside now. So he did the most basic things with those guide tones, and now he is quoting or kind of referencing the melody of Blue Rondo A La Turk, which is this. So that's 3-1-3-1 as the main subject in for alto saxophone D major, concert key F. So F sharp D, and a triplet D variation on that. But here he plays it one tone higher. He plays. So it's not a literal quotation, but it's a clear reference, and it's one tone higher. Why it works, of course, is because we're on the D7 chord. Bass player is playing an A. I wrote that in, but basically we're on a D7, and he plays the upper structure of that chord. So a E triad includes the 9, the G sharp is sharp 11, and the B is the 13. So that's a upper extension with a lot of color to that chord, but he plays it so sweet. It almost doesn't sound really that colorful because of his beautiful sound, but it is pretty hip already. But what happens next, how he then kind of transfers it into the next phrase, you have to listen to that. You know, he goes with that E major based melody reference, and yeah, you would ask, how can you kind of come your way back into your normal key? Paul Desmond first goes up. He goes to a F triad. It's a clear F triad. That's the flat 3 in D major. So we're modal interchanging here. Then he goes next to B flat. That's the flat 6 in D major, to go to E flat, flat 2, and then back into D. So that's actually the Ladybird turnaround there. We're not playing the 1 because he comes from E major, the upper structure. So goes straight to flat 3, then flat 6, flat 2, and then the next line that can be seen in D major. So that's really a very hip way to, and it's the first time, to be honest, I've listened to so many Paul Desmond solos. It's the first time that I've seen him use modal interchange at all, as a superimposition at least. Here he really imposes it on the structure, and in the most epic of ways, because it's not only that those chords, it's also, what I like about it is that he has a few of these skips which make it really wide sounding. So you get that skip between the D and F on this B flat triad. And then you get a 7th interval up from that F to the E flat, so it sounds really open, really cool. And then, almost like he's back in this childish mind, he does a turnaround in a normal 1-6 dominant 2-5. That's like the most basic old school way of a 1-6-2-5. The combination between starting like lesson 1 of improvisation with the guide tones, then he goes into that upper structure reference, which is basically polytonality. It's the melody, but just in a different key, whilst it keeps on going in the normal key. And then how he resolutes from that E in towards the modal interchange is really beyond my mind, how you can be that creative with kind of, yeah, using your melody as a reference and then making your way back. Insane. So, and then let's go into the next chorus. Then it's all tension and release and a beautiful combination of that. He goes back into release, into an easy state, and start just playing massively inside again. Okay, before we go on, this is worth mentioning, this phrase. He has used that one already to start his solo with these pickups, and he will use it again. So that's, he doesn't play a lot of licks. He plays motifs, he develops it, but if there is one lick he plays a bit more, then it's this kind of generic pickup in a blues scale way. And this will be important just in a minute because there will happen something very cool again. So keep this in mind, it will come back. Just steal that blues lick, please. It's so satisfying that he kind of ends on that E on the 9, so it's so nice that it ends on the, it's not too obvious if you would end it on a stronger note, like, I mean, that's too definitive. Again, this complete chorus is first the major blues scale or even pentatonic scale, and then he plays there he plays one bar anticipated, a clear G with the arpeggio of G. Again, almost like he's executing his first improvisation or his second improvisation lesson where he's checking out his arpeggios. It cannot be more basic than this, I guess. Phew, and that's just simple sounding but very beautiful voice leading there. And also that D sharp of this secondary dominant, which the B7 is, going into E, this really makes the expectation beautiful, because imagine if it was a normal D. I don't know, that doesn't work. And it really leads into what he will be playing next. So again, there he's really inside, but he's so creative with this E minor triad actually. Again, this D sharp really creates the expectation, but he leaves it there for a little pause, and then he goes with that same blues pickup like he started the solo, and which I just notified you of. So he creates again this expectation, and you get at the start exactly what you think you get, but then something happens. Whoa, second time I fell off my chair, I guess, at this point. So you get the third time this bluesy lick, so you think like, oh yes, I know what's coming, but no, the third time he uses that root note as a kind of approach note to the flat 9, the E flat. And he swings so hard on it, and it's also really cool how Joe Morello interacts with that. Joe Morello plays a strong bass drum on the 2 and the 4. I was doing this, but it's obviously not a floor tom, it's a bass drum, and it really swings with those quarter notes a lot. And I know it cannot be true, because as people have pointed out on the transcription of this that I posted earlier, it reminds me of the instrumental part of Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. And we know that Paul Desmond really did a lot of quotes on the most weird of kind of superimposed places, but still it sounds like ba, 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 ba. That's what my mind does, at least. I don't know how it's for you. I really can't turn it off, although it cannot be true. So he does that, and then he comes down with that weird scale, which is that's a half-tone, whole-tone scale. They're octatonic, and again, this is kind of something which a lot of hard bop players, like Cannonball, for example, he does that a lot. But I've never heard Desmond use it before, although I know probably hundreds of his solos. It kind of shows you how much he had up his sleeve, but he never used so much of his complete vocabulary to make sense. He always went for the motive. That was the main goal, and not to show off his intellectual skills. And this guy was amazingly intellectual, you know, he knew so much. It's incredible. You can just see it, but you have to study the body of his work, and then it just amazes you how literate this man was, and how smart, witty, and charming all together, and very unassuming, not really trying to impress anybody. It was so subtle that most people kind of miss all these crazy stuff he is doing. Most people get really fooled by it. Yes, there's still one thing left for us that kind of brought me into a weird place. I didn't know what to make of it. So there we have again a quote, like you think, whoa, that sounds familiar, but I cannot really put my finger on it almost. And that was how I felt, at least. And then after just 2 or 3 times, I realized it's again a reference to the melody, which is in D again. But here he plays. So that's that motive, but we are now in F major. So that's the 3rd key that he references the main melody in. We've had it in D, obviously. He did that in E on the D7 chord, which was this extension what used with the 9 sharp 11 and the 6 or the 13. And now we have it in F, and now we cannot really see it as a upper extension. It's really just actually polytonality, but why it sounds so weird is kind of, it sounds familiar and weird at the same time, is because he plays it already over the G7, but it continues over the D7 chord. The bass player is playing D, or for alto, D. And if you then put those notes in F over D, it's just D minor sounding, D minor Aeolian. He plays it in F, and then in a kind of way, he makes his way back to references to conclude and to resolve it into D. Listen to that. Also, this last line is worth mentioning. So he does. If you want to know more, check out my new Paul Desmond study group. I do weekly lessons and assignments, and I share all my research in different ways there. Let me know what you think about this solo. Please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. I love talking with you guys in the comment section. So, hope to see you next time. I'm Jorre Reinders.